Good day, everyone. You're welcome to the ICAN Guide. Once again, my name is Oluwafemi Ososan, and this is the ICAN Guide. So, I'll be talking about one of the papers in skills level, audit and assurance. One of the reasons why I love audit and assurance is because, in practice, when you want to practice anything relating to accounting, audit is one of the basic line that you can actually function in. You can function as an auditor, and auditing is actually very, very I think it's very sweet. Although people say that the course itself as a subject is boring, and I will agree with them. It's actually boring. Now, going straight to the point, audit and assurance has over 16 topics in the skills level. It has from the definition to assurance engagement to audit planning, audit control, verification procedures, professional ethics, audit sampling. So I can't mention all the topics, but this is the way I was able to approach audit. I told us that I failed when I spoke about I have failed before. What is the way forward? So I failed before, and not because I didn't read, but because I was trying to forecast that okay, they've set this part before, they've done this before, so from this should be the compulsory question, this should be the compulsory question. But for audit and assurance is something that we should not forecast. If it's possible, try to read 100% of the audit and assurance pack. Now, you hear people say they set mostly from chapter 1 to chapter 6 or from chapter 10 to chapter 16. Yeah, it might work for them, but the best approach in writing this examination is one, try to cover everything in the topic in the pack, because this is ICAN and not just university examination whereby it is the person who is lecturing you that will set the question. Here, the examiner is different from the lecturer. The people to mark are also different from the examiner itself and from the person who sets the question. So for audit and assurance, I feel one of the best ways to go through, there is a guide on all the topics in the past questions. That is all the topics that we have in the course. There's a guide on it online that it will tell you when they set that particular question and what year they set it in the past question. So one of the ways to approach this audit and assurance is because audit is a course that the more you read it, the more you forget. Once you read it and you think you've read it and you understand it, to be sincere, you don't know what you've read. It's when someone asks you a question, you know that wow, I've actually forgotten this thing. So audit is a course whereby you go back again and again and again to read it over time. It's not just because you've read it once and you believe you know it. No, audit is something that you have to go back again to read and read again. So the best approach is one, as you are reading the topic, you try to go to past questions, check when they said that particular topic, go and solve a question on it. And not just solving, check the suggested solutions to see the way they answered it. There are some times whereby the answer we provided might actually be correct, but our approach might actually not be the right one. Or maybe they told you to write about a particular thing. Let's say they are telling us to write about audit sampling. So because there are more than one audit sampling techniques, but because of when you're in the exam or because of time management, you went to write only one or two. If it's possible, you write everything you know about audit sampling, because the person to mark, they didn't tell you to list two, they didn't tell you to list one. Another thing is for us to know how to approach those questions in examination, or when they give us about 6 questions or 7 questions, you don't have to solve the compulsory question first. That is the mistake many of us used to do, because the compulsory question is 30 marks. We feel, let me get 30 marks. See, you can do exam without even touching the compulsory question, which is number 1, and still pass, because you have 70 marks to chase from the other questions you have to solve. So you can still pass without even touching the number 1 question. If you don't know number 1, leave it alone. Go straight to the other questions and approach them the way you know it. One of my lecturers used to tell me that if you are in the examination hall and you see that a particular question is very difficult, and you know that you've read, in all sincerity, you've read, he said we should always believe that everybody in that exam hall, they are finding it difficult. And with that, I always tell myself that if I find a question to be very difficult or challenging, that means everybody in the examination, they also find that topic to be very difficult and challenging. Yeah, it might not be so, but that's one of the ways that I console myself. Then I calm down. Then I approach. When I wrote audit in skills the second time, I don't know anything in the number 1 question, but I knew that I still have about 4 questions to solve. So what I did was I went to the other questions, I solved them, I gave it the best of my ability, wrote everything I knew about it. But that does not mean I left number 1 question blank. No, I still went back there to write something. I still went back there to touch it, just to touch it, that at least I solved all the 5 questions that I was supposed to solve. So for audit and assurance, don't forecast. Don't try to permutate and do combination. That they said audit evidence and documentation last diet as the compulsory question. So this diet will be introduction to public sector auditing. Don't do that. Or they've said this audit standard ISA 500 last diet. They won't set it this diet. Don't do that. If possible, try to cover all and solve as many questions as possible so that you can acclimatize yourself to the way the examiner and the way they set the question. You know, from skills level, it is all theory, no OBJ. So what you have to do now, how can you answer the question the best way that will make the examiner feel you know it? So the best thing is, do not forecast, do not permutate. Try to read all the topics if possible. If not, attend lectures so that they can make it easy for you while explaining, so that when you are reading it, you look as if you are doing revision. Then read the pack as many times as possible. Don't read it once and think you are done with audit. No, that is not audit. You can do that for CSM, you can do that for taxation, but not audit. You have to read it over and over and again, because it is more of what you are supposed to do practically that you are saying the theoretical part. So you have to go over it over and over and again. Try to solve questions, read the past questions, follow past question trends, but don't limit yourself to past question trend. Then when you get to the examination now, solve the question you know best. You don't have to solve number 1 question best. And I am very sure that audit and assurance will be one of the easiest and cheapest course for you. Once again, this is the ICAN guide. Thank you.